Welcome to Profiles in Radio. Since August 8, 1962, CFTR 680 on the AM dial has been a popular fixture as an option of Toronto's radio menu. Over 54 years, dozens of on-air personalities, 3 formats, and 2 call letters. It has earned consistently high ratings and has maintained its ranking as one of Toronto's most popular radio stations. History. At the time of its inception, this station was the original CHFI. The station simulcasted using the same call letters on an FM frequency. On the FM frequency, it aired so-called beautiful music, which came to be known by future audiophiles and Kmart shoppers as Muzak. Initially, CHFI broadcasted at 1,540 kilohertz. Since the 1540 frequency is a clear channel, a channel that receives no interference from other radio channels, and was devoted to the United States and the Bahamas, CHFI could only broadcast during the day. CHFI was able to broadcast 24 hours a day after reaching an agreement with CHLO in St. Thomas, Ontario, to share the 680 frequency. In 1971, the station changed its call letters to CFTR, which stands for Canada's First Ted Rogers, a tribute to Ted Rogers Sr., who had been a dominant shareholder. The following year, the station underwent another significant transition when it abandoned the beautiful music format and changed to Top 40. After an improvement to their signal and the hiring of on-air personality Jim Brady, they were in direct competition with Chum FM. At one point, they had both accumulated an audience of nearly 1 million listeners. For years, CFTR and Chum fought the rock and roll wars, and though CFTR was highly popular with its chosen demographic, they were never able to top Chum's ratings until 1984. In the wake of this victory, Chum switched to an adult contemporary format to remain competitive. There's been a great deal of turnover in the position of announcer at CFTR over the years. Notable personalities include Dan Freeman, Duke Roberts, Paul Godfrey, Dick Joseph, Peter Red Knight Thompson, Bobby Day, Rick Hunter, Bill Gable, Tom Jeffries, George Hamburger, Bill Hayes, Steve Gregory, Dan Williamson, Bob Saint, Tom Rivers, Bob Callahan, Mike Cooper, Big G Glenn Walters, and Big Don Beefer. Through the 1980s and 1990s, music formats switched to FM stations to the point where they became predominant. CFTR transitioned into its current format as a news station on June 1st, 1993, adopting the name 680 News. To cap off their final moments of airing music, they played the top 500 songs of the last 25 years. The last song, which came in at number 1, was Phil Collins' Against All Odds. 680 News was the first all-news radio station in Canada since the CKO network folded in 1989. 680 News continues to be the only all-news station in Toronto, competitive only with CFRB, a station that broadcasts news but is otherwise a predominantly talk-oriented format with more commentary and personality-driven content. Despite this, 680 News is the most successful radio station in Canada. It has become a franchise with sister stations across the country. At the time that CFTR switched to this all-news format, not only were there no other radio stations doing the same, but even on television there were no 24-hour news stations, with the exception of CNN, which was available to all Canadians who subscribed to cable, but primarily focused on American news. CFTR provided a source for news relevant to citizens of Toronto about their city and country. Years later, CFTR would compete with 24-hour cable news channels and the internet, but CFTR remains the only news-only radio station in Toronto. The following is a promo from the 1980s, advertising CFTR's commercial-free Sundays.
Why do you listen to CFTR's commercial-free Sundays? When when can you listen to commercial-free Sundays?
All night long. All night. All night long.
And what would you do without commercial-free Sundays?
Might as well jump. Might as well jump.
Commercial-free Sundays only on 680 CFTR.
This promo was aired in 1993 once CFTR changed to its all-news format.
There's lots of different music on the radio. And at 680 News, we don't play any of it. Our sole purpose is to give you the latest news, weather, sports, traffic, and business when you want it. So no matter what you're listening to, when you want a quick update, tune to 680 AM. Get what you want, then tune back out. At 680 News, we don't expect you to listen all day. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. The brand new 680 News. 20 minutes of news every 20 minutes.
Format. CFTR provides regular updates on the following topics on a 24-hour basis: business, traffic, weather, local news, national news, world news, entertainment, sports. 680 News Online. 680news.com offers consistent updates on the news as a desktop site and through a mobile app. Also available are biographies on the station's on-air staff and a Contact Us form for listeners to report newsworthy incidents that may not have caught the eye of the media. Current and former CFTR personalities look back. The following accounts are given by broadcast professionals who have lived out their dreams of working in broadcasting on the radio at 680 News, CFTR. Their stories and testimonials offer a glimpse into the daily operations at 680 News, not to mention valuable lessons to those who dream of working in radio but have yet to gain experience in the field. Corey Galbraith recounts his experience as a newscaster and reporter at CFTR in the late 1970s and early 1980s on the official website of his company, galbraithcommunications.com. I often think back to those days of my youth when AM radio was hot, and CFTR set the standard for contemporary radio in Canada. There were 1.4 million people who tuned in each week to hear their favorite music and DJ. TR had energy, attitude, and a positive feeling that people liked. Even the news people, like me, had reached celebrity status. The DJs at the station had groupies, young girls who would call them up and visit the station. Me? I had old, lonely men call me up. Some would rant and get angry with me if I didn't call them back.
You do as what you have promised to do. Or I'll tell you one thing, I'm going to come in and get your ass. And I'm going to take it out to that flagpole out there, and I'm going to strap you to it. And I'm going to beat your ass with a whip until you drop dead. Do you understand that? And if you don't do it, do it!
Bloopers. Mistakes of all kinds can occur during a radio broadcast. Whether it's a stutter, a mispronunciation, or a typo in a script, even the most seasoned and highly skilled professionals can make mistakes on air. The following are 3 bloopers that Galbraith recounts from his years at CFTR. In Beirut today, 158 people were killed to death, some seriously. In Washington, U.S. President Ronald McReagan addressed Congress. In sports, Guy Lafleur scored after taking a pass. Amber LeBlanc recounts her climb up the ladder from her start as overnight anchor to her current position as news director. My time at 680 News started in May 2010 as an overnight anchor, learning what we call the news wheel. It was an awesome experience, complete with lots of breaking news and very early morning conversations with police officers about how awesome coffee is. In November 2011, I was lucky enough to have been given the responsibility of editing the 680 News morning show, which meant getting up at the crack of ridiculous to come in to find, line up, and help write newscasts for Paul Cook and Catherine Jett. It was amazing to be part of this team, working with people who truly have passion for their work. In February 2018, I was promoted to news director, where I get to work with all of our incredible broadcasters to help provide you the information you need to navigate your day. News anchor morning and managing editor Paul Cook reflects on the impact his work makes on the lives of 680 News listeners. I feel useful. When people wake up in the morning, the first thing most want to find out is if their world is safe. I get to answer that question. I don't take that task lightly. Once we have determined it is, we can bring people up to speed on everything they need to know to carry on a conversation at work about current events. Let's face it, many of our listeners have kids and don't have a second to read the paper before racing out of the home. Morning news editor Samantha Knight recounts her being hired at 680 News as a dream come true. It has always been my dream to work at 680 News. I know it may sound cheesy, but for me it's true. When I was 13 years old, I knew I wanted to be a journalist, and in high school I set the goal for myself to intern at 680 News and ultimately end up working here. It even helped shape me into the editor that I am today. In February of 2018, I was promoted to morning show editor, and it feels so great to be back with this team. I now have a wake-up call of 1:30 a.m. and have to take 2 naps to get a full 8. During my final year of journalism at the University at Guelph Humber in 2015, I became an intern at the station, working with overnight, weekend, and midday crews. I quickly just realized how much I loved the newsroom atmosphere, and a month and a half after my internship came to an end, I landed a job as an audio editor. In July 2015, I began being trained as an editor, building the newscast for various evening and weekend shifts. Less than 2 years later, I was given the opportunity to cover the 680 morning show for 8 months. I enjoyed every minute and learned so much from the talented veterans that work on the station. They were so welcoming and couldn't have asked for a better team. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything else in the world. CFTR Today. CFTR's position as one of Toronto's premier radio stations has fulfilled the lives of listeners and staff alike since its inception. Whether it was Tarzan Dan entertaining Toronto's teens with endless New Kids on the Block singles in 1990, or Colette Desjardins advising Toronto's drivers on a frigid February morning to beware of black ice, CFTR has been there for Torontonians since 1962, whether it was to inform or entertain. 56 years later, the station faces no threat from dwindling popularity, and other stations would only compete in the Toronto news radio market at their peril. For Profiles in Radio, this is Morgan Rector.